I'll tell you what, Lee killed it with that new intro. That new intro is so badass. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, and drag racing fans across the world, welcome back to another special episode of Between the Slicks on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. Episode 99. How about that? This is the 99th episode of Between the Slicks. You talk about the longevity of this show. I mean, Lee has done a great job building this show from where he started, 2 years ago? This show started 2 years ago. We're at episode 99. That's amazing. And this show's going to go on for a long time. I know it is. And man, next week is the big 100th episode of Between the Slicks. So that gets me wondering then, who is Lee going to bring out next week as a special guest for the big 100th celebration of this show? Who could it be? Who could it be? I don't know. You just got to wait till next week to find out. But before we get started, I want you guys, can you guys all please share this show? Tell everybody to tune in. This is episode 99 of Between the Slicks. I know Lee, one big thing he wants to do is grow the audience for his live shows. That's really what he wants to do. He wants to grow this show. So I would appreciate it if you guys would share this show. Tell everybody tune in. Hey, we got a special show for everybody here tonight. My name is Darren Williams Jr. Lee Craft will be on very soon, probably the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. He's out scouring the country. You know, Lee, all he does is, he's living the dream. He travels the world going to drag races. So he's somewhere out there. He'll be tuning in just a little bit. But today's gonna be a pretty fun show. We got a special guest here tonight. Dennis Salzwimmer. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He'll be joining us tonight of the Great Lakes Funny Car Circuit. Lee actually hosted his first ever, announced his first ever drag race last weekend out at, I believe, Keystone Dragway, which is pretty cool. So I mean, Lee can do it all. He can announce, he can take photos, he can run his own live show. He's a pit reporter. I mean, he does it all. So Lee's the man. And like I said, a shout out to him for how long he's, has done this show and the longevity of the show. Episode 99 of Between the Slicks. And then next weekend, the big 100th episode. So make sure to be here next Thursday. Make sure to be here next Thursday for the 100th episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, the man is here. He is here in studio. So let's bring him on. The one and only Lee Craft, the Monday Morning Racer.
Darren, man, look, thanks as always. You stepping up, pitch hitting and getting things going for me. Just got into my motel room, which was an interesting situation because it's not a motel. It's like little cottages. They're actually very nice, but I'm like, what do I do? There's nowhere to check in, and you got to text somebody, and you wait for a code. You got to put a code in, and it unlocks itself. And great little situation, but then it's about 20 minutes from the track right here at Mocan Dragway. For anybody that's wondering why the heck they call this thing Mocan, no, it's not the town of Mocan. This is in the town of Asbury, Missouri, depending on where you do live in Missouri. And right over there is the border to Kansas. So Missouri, Kansas Dragway. So that's why it's called Mocan. And tell you what, from the last time I saw footage of this place, they put up some concrete walls, so made it a little safer, and we're looking forward to a historic drag race right here, Nitro Chaos. So, Darren, you mentioned doing some announcing later on. I will have a vlog out describing what it was like and give a little bit of a snippet of the action and talk about the Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit. And it was an interesting time. I enjoyed myself. I know I can certainly improve on the announcing job. They have a beautiful facility there at Keystone. They could definitely hold big events at that place. Greg Miller, the owner, has put a lot of time and money in that place, and it definitely shows. But, Darren, it was awkward because you go, okay, let's say you go to a high school football game, and they got aluminum bleachers, right? And then you got what they call the skybox. They don't call the tower a tower in football. They call it a skybox, and it is situated parallel to the football field. Well, the tower at Keystone Dragway, which is very nice, by the way, it is a skybox rather than a tower, and it runs parallel to the drag strip. And where the announcer is situated, you can't, I've got my face up against the glass like, and now it's in the quarter mile, because you can't see the scoreboards and past 1,000 foot. So I don't like looking at the computer. It looks like alphabet soup, but numbers. So I really don't like looking at it, but I had to decipher what the heck was happening because I could not actually see the scoreboards. But it was a lot of fun, great time, and it is harder than what any of you may think. If you're out there and you think the announcer has got a cushy, easy job, you are wrong. It is the most drastically different media performance that I had to do out of all, like you mentioned earlier, videographer, photographer, pit reporter, completely different. Because as a pit reporter, I know the story that I got to go get, and I go get that story. It has actually already developed. I'm getting it in hindsight to tell everybody else on Flow Racing, on Monday Morning Racer, on Funny Car Chaos, or wherever it may be. But with announcing, you're attempting to tell the story as it is happening.
Yes.
And then when there is nothing happening, it's like, what the heck do you say and what do you tell the people? So look, your track announcer, especially if they're a volunteer, buy them a Coke, buy them a cheeseburger, give them a gift card every now and then. It is harder than you think.
Nah, I mean that makes a lot of sense, because like you said, even when there's downtime, you have to kind of keep the audience interested, you know, and keep their attention, you know, throughout the whole thing. And like you said, you know, for announcers, you have to remember everybody's name. I know you have computers, but you kind of have to know their backstory too. You know, Alan Reinhardt, he knows every racer and everybody's backstory and everything. It's amazing how he does all that, you know, and he's able to say things on the spot, which is really hard. You know, I know I struggle with like talking on the spot, so I best believe it is a pretty tough job for sure.
Man, it is. And you're right. You got to know the backstory. And I feel like after announcing at Keystone for the Funny Car Nationals for the Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit in town, that you have to be more prepared than you thought you needed to be. I felt like I was prepared. I went in the pits and I love to talk with people in the pits anyway and get stories. And I asked about this car and this paint job and what's the history on this car. And I did all of that. And I get to the tower and I'm like, I still need more. So you need more than you ever think you would. But definitely, it was a great experience. I look forward to the next time. If you're out there and you're at a drag strip and you need someone to announce your event, hey, I'm open for that. If you need a pit reporter, I'm open for that. And kudos to Chris Graves. I asked him, I said, man, are you okay with me going and announcing at another funny car event? I mean, I do Funny Car Chaos. This is a whole nother funny car event. And he's like, yeah, man, go do it. It is cool to work with someone that's got no issues with things like that. So kudos to Chris Graves. He's a great individual to work with and for in moving the Funny Car Chaos, the Chaos Nation forward. And that is a joy as well.
I want to say this, though, before you kick me off and you take over your show. I just want to say this. Kudos to you, you know, for putting yourself out there. First off, you know, have never been a track announcer, to put yourself out there and in the moment and like on the spot do it. I applaud you for that, because that takes a lot of guts, for real. Because I know track announcing is a totally different experience. So for you to put yourself out there on the spot and go ahead and do it, applaud you for that, for real.
I appreciate that. And look, man, I've just got to a point in my life, and many, many years ago, I decided that honestly, this is how I come to a conclusion of I'm not going to tell myself no, and I'm going to take risks. Mm-hmm. There was a study done many years ago, and the number one response to senior citizens of what do you regret most in your life, it wasn't, hey, I didn't ask that girl out for a date. Hey, I didn't start that business. Hey, you know, it wasn't the sum of it all was I didn't take enough risks. Mm-hmm. And I have concluded that I'm a believer in the Lord. I'm going to trust the Lord and take risks. I'm going to do both of those things at the same time. And it has worked out, and opportunities have opened up to me. And I would say if you're out there and you're looking and wanting opportunities, first you got to take a risk. You know, in the drag program, the drag racing announcer group that Brian Loans has started, I did jump into that. He made mention, you know, if you're looking for that opportunity, sometimes you got to go get it. You need to go to your local track, go there for test and tune, and announce then and there. I got a unique opportunity to kind of announce a big event right off the bat. I don't really recommend that. I mean, I knew what I was kind of getting into, and I thought about it, and I've got rapport with some of these drivers and been doing this for a little while. But nonetheless, I'd recommend go to your test and tune, just like Brian recommended, because if you can handle test and tune night, you can handle any other announcing situation. So maybe you want to get involved. Go to your local track. They're probably looking for somebody right now. Yes. Volunteer, give it a shot, then say, hey, I do a good enough job at this. You need to pay me a little bit. I am talented. I am worth this. And that's something even myself. I want to get to the point where I'm making a living in this. Chris Graves has helped start that. And Doug Foley has helped start that with what I do with his team on the social media side of things and going announcing and being paid. Look, if you're doing the work, you ought to get paid. There comes a point where it's no more volunteer work. And I've hit that point.
No, for sure. I just want to say one more thing. When you talked about, just not saying no. For anybody who's out there who wants to do something and they're on the fence about, pulling the trigger on it, with any grade in any profession, they are not scared to fail. That's what I've noticed. Any grade in any profession, they are not scared to put themselves out there and fail, because they know if they fail, the only thing they can do is come back and get better at it, and it's only the road to success. So if you're ever on the fence about anything, just go out there and just do it. Like you said, just do it. Because don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to mess up. Just go out there and do it, and you won't have no regrets. I'm gonna just say that you won't have no regrets. So that's what I got for you, Lee. Because you've motivated me a lot in the past too. I know that. So
well, cool, man. I'm glad that's the case. You're doing great things, and you can hang out and bounce stuff off with me. What I do want to get to is, you mentioned that 100th episode. Yes, next week, that is the plan. Episode 100 of Between the Slicks. And for you that have been watching, thank you, no matter where you picked it up. The first episode actually was not live. It was a recording. Well, it was live, but I had to just do it on Facebook. I didn't have a way to put it on actually the YouTube at the same time. I didn't have StreamYard, and it was with Melanie Salemi and Johnny Placino at Darlington Dragway at a PDRA event. That was the first episode, and they have been longtime guests. We've had many other guests. We just had Robert Height. The 100th guest, I have no clue yet. I've been trying to figure it out. I've been trying to work with people and just have not found that person. What I can say is I want to reach out to a few more people, and it may be someone from the past. It may be someone from drag racing in the present, but across the pond. It may be someone that is very influential in YouTube and drag racing. I'm knocking on all doors to make the 100th episode special, but I will say, no matter who I've got, it's going to be special because hitting 100, almost 2 years worth of content.
Yes.
With this show, and oftentimes people start podcasts and they stop. And I have thought about like the 25th episode in, like, what am I doing? I might as well just give it up. This isn't going anywhere, but I have kept it going and kept it moving forward, and it has grown and it has moved the platform forward. And, at least what I am able to do is the competitors of the Southeast Gasser Association or a Funny Car Chaos or even a PDRA, that oftentimes they don't have any shows that they are able to go on and talk. I can provide that, and I've given that platform. But the future of Between the Slicks, I think it's bright. Never know where it might stream to in the future. So make sure you stay right here on Monday Morning Racer and Between the Slicks, because the 100th episode and beyond, it's going to be good. That is for sure.
Be here next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific, for the big 100th episode of Between the Slicks. And
yes,
basically what he's saying, everybody, I'm the 100th episode guest. I mean, how else can you describe it? I'm the guest. I'm the guest for the 100th episode.
Well, hey, man, again, thank you for all your help. You actually were a guest many episodes ago.
Yeah.
And, I hope that helped encourage you and help give more eyeballs to your channel. And I'm excited to where you're going and how you're moving forward. So, hey, we've had a lot of individuals who have licensed. Their first show is to come on Between the Slicks. That's kind of my little thing. If you get your license, you got to come on this show, because nobody else apparently wants you, but I do. I want to hear what you think about licensing and taking from Super Comp to A Fuel and getting in that Top Fuel dragster. So, yeah, no telling who we're going to have for the 100th episode. It might be a return guest. We've had some great guests in the past. Like Krista Baldwin, we've had Kayla Simmons, we've had Quayne Stott, we've had Cruz Petragon, Robert Hyde, again, just a couple of weeks ago. So no telling who's going to be on Between the Slicks. Darren, I need to take some time, though, in the burn down segment and give my opinion in the drag racing world of what matters most this week. And it is exactly where I am at right now. Nitro Chaos, Darren. Yes, I understand. There is the Mile High Nationals happening north of me, or kind of west of me, or wherever Colorado is from where I'm at here in Missouri and Kansas. Further west, slightly north, yes, I understand that's happening. Great facility. Bandamere Speedway. Talked with Tammy Bandamere Tuesday night. She's a great individual. Love talking and chatting with her on and off the camera. Yes, the PDRA. Love my Professional Drag Racers Association. They're out there at another great track at Virginia Motorsports Park, owned by Tommy and Judy Franklin, a great group of people. But the drag race this weekend is happening right here at Mocan Dragway. I do not think there is a more significant, a more historical drag race than what is happening right here this weekend. Darren, first and foremost, we have Big Daddy Don Garlitz on the premises the whole entire weekend for this race. Big Daddy, large father, he is right here, going to be cackling like Swamp Rat 12 in his pits. I mean, like, he's going to be signing autographs. He's the Grand Marshal. He's been here to Mocan in a racing capacity. Way back in the 60s, he competed here. He did match races in the 80s. And here he is again, the 60th anniversary of Mocan Dragway, celebrating it. And we have Big Daddy. Also, again, just said, 60 years for a little facility out in the middle of nowhere. And I mean it, because I'm looking and there's nothing but cornfields and soybean and trees and rail lines. That is all that is out here. And they have lasted for 60 years. And I don't mean just survive. They apparently must be thriving to have Big Daddy and have a historic event called Nitro Chaos, the third rendition of it. And this may be the best one yet, ladies and gentlemen. Here's why. We have, for the first time, an opportunity where we can have repeat winners. This show has two fields of 8 cars. All those cars must be nitro burners. They have to have 80% plus in the tank. Well, Jody Austin won the A field in Eddyville. He is here. Brian Inouye won the B field in Eddyville. He is here. We could see repeat champions of this style of event. We also have in attendance, making her first ever Chaos debut, the 2-time NHRA alcohol dragster champion in her A fuel rail, Megan Meyer. She brings Randy Meyer Racing back out, and she's excited to get back behind the wheel and be in a situation where I have fun, no pressure, but it is for the money, and it is in eliminations. And her story, I'm definitely going to be following, not just because she's Megan Meyer and 2-time NHRA champion. I think it speaks a lot that you've got someone that is an NHRA champion. They're not going to an NHRA race. They're paying visit to a little 8th mile track out in the middle of nowhere. Did I make point of that? And they are going to be racing 8th mile in their A fueler. Why? Because they see that it's a great opportunity in the way and place of life that they're in. Good to have her. Julie Natus is here as well. And with their combination, Megan's been behind the wheel already at Eddyville Night of Fire, went 360s and 370s. That is actually not probably enough to make her number 1 qualifier. I know many would think Megan comes in, she's going to automatically be number 1 qualified. No, they're going to have to step up the performance. There are cars here that can run in the 330s, one of them being Warwagon. Warwagon in its Alter trim, if you may remember a couple of years ago at the what was Nitro Madness, or we understand now as the Funny Car Chaos Classic, it set a record. Wilkerson and Hartman have ET, but mile per hour in the quarter mile, over 306 point something miles per hour. That is Warwagon. Well, I was also informed last night by David Ratton, the voice of Chaos on Chaos Live, that Warwagon is apparently the fastest and quickest fuel altered in the 8th mile. So that machine is here. You have Joe Haas with his funny car that they are predicting will run in the 340s eventually once they have it fully worked out. There are some bad hombres in the drag racing world here of all different types. Funny car, front engine dragster, supercharged or injected, and A fuel rails, and you name it, it is here. And it is going to be a stellar show. These two fields being field and they will be, because there's over 20-something cars here. People are going to go home. Man, I really feel like this is the race, and I'm so thankful to be right here. Let me tell you, if you don't have Flow Racing, you need to get Flow Racing, and you need to watch Friday and Saturday. Why? Because I'm the pit reporter. But most of all, because of Nitro Chaos right here at Mocan Dragway. It is going to be historic. And Drag Illustrated, Competition Plus, Dragzine.com, Nostalgia Drag World, any of them, all of them, if they don't talk about this race by the end of it, shame on them. They're wrong for it. You're wrong. You're wrong. And I just see, I'm getting excited here. Keep going, Darren. I'll be back.
That was a WWE style promo right there. WWE style.
Yes.
I got a quick question for you. So will Julie be in the funny car again, or will she be in her dragster?
She will be in the dragster.
She'll be in the dragster. Okay. All right. Cool.
Yes.
Okay. And
I hope they get the funny car worked out. I want to see it back, but yes, they're both going to be in the dragster. And man, this is going to be a good one. I cannot wait. The storylines, how it might shake out. There was some tire smoke for both Matt Sackman and Megan Meyer at the Eddyville Night of Fire before they got things figured out. So, well, I don't know what's going to happen, man. We got 3 rounds of racing because they're eight car fields, and they are all going to be action packed. I cannot wait.
Man, it sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's cool that you're there. And like you said, so we got the Mile High Nationals in Denver, but we also got this big time race in Mocan. And one car I'm looking at too is Bushwhacker. You talk about Jody Austin. I mean, that's a badass fuel also right there with Jody Austin behind the wheel.
Yes,
I'm wondering what he could do this weekend. So I'm looking forward to it as well. I don't have Flow Racing, I gotta be honest, but hey, if anybody has a Flow Racing account that I can sign in, let me know. I'll sign in and tune in this weekend.
Also, qualifying. There's money in qualifying right now because Jody Austin and Joe Haas, so 2 cars, have both called out War Wagon. Everybody wants a piece of War Wagon. So Joe Haas and War Wagon are going at it for each other. $500 on the line. It's pretty cool in qualifying. And then Jody Austin and War Wagon in the next qualifying session, the last one of that day on Friday, they will go at it. $500 again on the line. So War Wagon could potentially walk away with $1,000 after qualifying, or $500 to Jody Austin and $500 to Joe Haas. So that's cool. That I like these people making these call outs in qualifying. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, do it. I wish that's something the NHRA would do and you would see more often. So thanks to Joe Costello for doing that one time. That was cool. And I'd love to see it more often.
That was between Krista Baldwin and Joe Morrison, correct? At Dallas,
yes, and that's when Joe went.
Yeah, he had that big explosion, and I made the comment. I was like, I got five shades darker from his explosion.
Right. You did. Yeah. Well, man, look, hit that drag news video, and let's fill the folks in on what's happening in the world of drag racing.
Okay, I just got to find it first because you have a lot of videos up here. Is that
I do. It's near the top.
I found it.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
And in drag news today on Between the Slicks. Now, I'm not going to do the voice the whole way through, but I want to congratulate Will Smith. Will Smith Motorsports. He announced here recently that he is going to license in a Top Fuel dragster in Larry Dixon's Top Fuel dragster coming up in August. So Will Smith, he is heavily involved with the PDRA. He's actually like their marketing manager. So he helps procure the sponsors that assist the operation and running of the PDRA. And he's a very accomplished driver. He oftentimes races Pro Mod with the Southern Nitrous group there in the Southeast. They usually race Florida and Alabama, Tennessee, those type of places. And he also is an accomplished fuel driver. He has driven for the Harada Motorsports bunch for a long time and actually won the Baby Gators earlier this year with Samsel Racing. So we're going to have another one getting their license in Top Fuel. And as long as Larry can get him down the track, and I'm sure that will be the case, I expect him to be licensed later on in August. And that might very well be one of the upcoming guests right here on the show talking about that experience. So congratulations to Will Smith with that announcement and him going to step in to a Top Fuel dragster to license. we've got the unveiling of the 2023 start of the NHRA Camping World Series Tour, and it's not at Pomona. It will begin at the Gator Nationals, then it will move west to have races at, I believe, Pomona is next, or was it Phoenix that was next? No, it was Phoenix, Pomona, Las Vegas.
Yes.
And I'm going to give my thoughts, Darren, and then I would love to hear your thoughts since I've got you here on the platform. But they make this announcement. One, I went on this rant on Competition Plus Power Hour. Again, everybody, start reading articles. Start reading the doggone article. Just don't comment. I can't stand it. Read the article. Glenn Cromwell made it clear that this is a move that is happening to help ease the burden of the racers. And even the NHRA, frankly, they have trucks going across the nation. And then in that same paragraph, in the same quote, inside the same quotation marks, it was even there that they intend to go back to the traditional start when it is feasible. What I do not understand, though I agree with the move, is why not just start with Pomona, then Phoenix, then Las Vegas, and then do the traditional opener there in Gainesville, the Gator Nationals. And we haven't had an announcement of where they're going to test. And you know that there's got to be some type of preseason testing happening. And I think it would be beyond Gainesville, and more than likely it's going to have to be East Coast now. And there are tracks that can handle it, but that hasn't been announced as well. So I'm just perplexed at why not Phoenix test, a week break, and do the 3 other events on the West Coast, and go ahead and move the Winter Nationals away from being in the middle of February. I'm fine with them being a little later in February, just right near the end. No problem with that, because it does seem like sometimes we start drag racing and then it's like, I remember when they started drag racing and they had it like right after the Daytona 500 or right before the Daytona 500, and then it's like, what happened to drag racing? You didn't see it for like 4 or 5 weeks, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the move and the NHRA thinking about the racers, but I just wonder why it couldn't start with Pomona still and just handle the West and then still move East. Just reverse it.
All right. So being a Southern California guy myself, if you guys don't know, I'm from Los Angeles. So, going out to Pomona for the Winter Nationals is pretty special for me. Kicking off the season in Pomona is always cool. I understand why they're doing it. And if you remember, and like what you said, you're like, so why not go Pomona, Phoenix, then Vegas? Well, if you remember a long time ago, like early 90s, they would go Pomona, Phoenix, Houston, and then Gainesville. It wasn't Pomona, Phoenix, Gainesville, Houston. It was Pomona, Phoenix, Houston. I know Houston's a little further out, but it'll be Pomona, Phoenix, Houston, and then they will go to Gainesville as the 4th stop on the year. So I can understand seeing them doing that right there. I just want to ask this. So I know you said it's very clear in the article why they're doing it. I know it's very clear. But do you think there's a little ounce of the crowds at Pomona, the reason why they're trying to switch this? I know you said they want to go back to it, but do you think this says just a little ounce of how the crowds have looked at Pomona lately? Just a little bit.
Darren, any quote from any president doesn't tell you the whole story.
Hey, that's what I'm just saying. So I'm like I said, I've read the article, and like you said, we're going to go back to the traditional way next year and in the future. But I just wonder, are they, because they tried it out last year, right? We started in Gainesville,
right? Which
was for COVID.
the COVID. Yeah, that was the reason for that is COVID and giving more time for Pomona, because Pomona, the Winter Nationals were technically in summer. Wasn't nowhere near winter, which is fine. It was COVID. But now we've moved beyond that. And again, I understand the being considerate for the racers and the teams. Do not misunderstand me. I just, why not do all West Coast first and then go East? Granted, look, the Gator Nationals, crown jewel event, it certainly can hold the first race of the year. I can understand that. It certainly can. It can have all the categories there. There's no shutdown issue. There's a lot of reasons why it does make sense, but I don't want the Winter Nationals to really be out of winter, because it is the Winter Nationals, and I count the Winter Nationals as a crown jewel event of this sport.
It is.
Not the finals. The finals is only a crown jewel if you got a shot at the championship. Let's be realistic. For you as a racer, if you're not in the championship, it's just another race, and it has moved around. It's been at places like Ontario and Pomona and had history elsewhere. I think Tulsa even. It has moved. But the Winter Nationals, I think this may be the first season outside of COVID where it's moving.
The big, remember the Winter Nationals, the big go west. This was on par with the big go west.
Which
the only other race we call the big go is the U.S. Nationals. Like, come on.
Right. At which I will take that back. It does come back into my mind. If you do enough digging, the actual first Winter Nationals was Daytona, and it was like this companion event with NASCAR and NHRA. And there's these great stories of Wally Parks and Bill France like looking over each other's shoulders at the ticket booth, like what's actually coming in. Yeah, go do some research on that. That one's interesting. You won't even find that in Pomona. That's the real deal.
Hey, Lee, if you think about it, so with the schedule next year, Gainesville, Phoenix, Pomona, Las Vegas, we've basically gone NASCAR because, they go Daytona, Florida, and then they go Fontana, Phoenix, Vegas. So we basically went NASCAR next year.
That is a good observation. Very good observation. That even makes me wonder.
I'm just saying.
Huh. Yeah, we'll see 2024 if they go back to tradition or not. We'll see.
They have to. I mean, too much history with the Winter Nationals. You got to, right?
I agree. I dare say this. Maybe there shouldn't be preseason testing. Maybe they should just show up at Pomona and come out and do it. I don't know.
I mean,
and if you are going to test, you just need to go do it yourself. Maybe.
Hey,
I don't know.
I'm not a racer. I'm not a crew chief, so I can't really answer that. But as a fan, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Maybe that's the case. I mean, you want to cut costs.
Mm-hmm. And so I like the old school stuff. So I would love, with Phoenix being gone after next year, and like you said, I know we're trying to cut costs with fuel and everything like that, inflation. But what I always loved was back in the day when we started the Winter Nationals and the second race was the Gator Nationals. I always loved that. I was like, hey, with Phoenix gone, let's go back to that. Go Pomona.
Yeah,
back to back.
I'd be fine with that. Just have bump up Gators, which Gators will be bumped up this year, and push back Pomona a little bit. I think it does start traditionally too early. But you can keep it in February and still have it Winter Nationals and still have the same feel. Just bump it back to whatever the last week is and have a week in between and then go to the Gators. But I don't think we're going to be without the Arizona market very long. Look, talk to Jim Hughes once on the Competition Plus Power Hour. They're making improvements. And then, as I've said on this show, and it was pointed out by Ohio Racing Media, Tucson is rendered in the new and upcoming NHRA game. It is in it. Okay. Why would you do that?
Yeah, for sure. And if you remember, if you go back to 2011, NHRA's 60th anniversary season. So remember, like you said, Pomona will actually start, early February, mid-February. Well, that year, they actually pushed the Winter Nationals back to the very last weekend of February and pushed Phoenix to the countdown. And Gainesville was the second race of the year. I don't know if you remember that. So it can be done. It can be done. And I'm fine with a whole lot of schedule movements. There's just certain races I don't think need to be moved. One of them is the Winter Nationals. It needs to stay in winter. It can stay in February. It can be moved around there, but keep it in winter, or the name just doesn't make sense. Yes, I get COVID, and I do understand being considerate for the racers this upcoming season. I understand it. But How strange would it be if we moved the U.S. Nationals from Labor Day weekend? Yeah.
No. And we can move the finals wherever we need it, date-wise or race-wise. I have been an advocate for a long time, and you know this, and many of the watchers here Between the Slicks, Las Vegas. I think that's the race that should end the season. It can accommodate everybody and pair it with SEMA and have the winners banquet there and all that type of thing. I think that would be the best fit and put drag racing up on the big platform ending the season there. So we've got a lot to look forward to as drag racing fans, and in particular the NHRA. There's going to be a lot of changes because many people are asking what tracks are they going to replace Houston and Atlanta with. Well, maybe they don't. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of the teams want that, in fact. But if they do, there'll be some exciting markets that they can go to. And there are tracks making improvements, and there are tracks that are rumored to be built for the purpose of an NHRA national event. We're in a fascinating time in drag racing. But remember this also, ladies and gentlemen, it's always been a changing landscape when it comes with racing. One of the greatest speedways ever built, just down the road from Pomona, Ontario Speedway. It was the jewel of motorsports for a period of time, and yet seemed like overnight it was bulldozed. You never know what happens with a facility.
Drag racing down pit road. I love it.
Yes, yes, yes. So is Dennis in yet?
Yeah, Dennis is in. Yes, he is. He is here.
Okay. Well, so man, you wanna go to take me to that Destroyer 1320 break, and thanks to Destroyer 1320 for his help and support. And let's get Dennis on here, Mr. Salzwimmer, and talk some Great Lakes nostalgia funny car circuit drag racing.
For sure, let's do it.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your central console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it into neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thieves' hope. Dennis! Man,
hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, and how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Finally got in at Mocan Dragway and able to get on the show here and have a great guest such as yourself. And let's begin with, as you've got your name there here on the show, Grand Poobah, and you've got the hat to prove it. Where the heck did you find one of those hats, man?
Well, there's a little bit of story about that. The group was actually in about 2 years in, and we usually have a year-end banquet, and two of the racers got together, and they actually Bill Hallett and his wife had handed Rocky Osick a box and said, "Hey, here, give this to Denny." So Rocky really wasn't sure what was going on, so gives it to me, and it's this Grand Poobah hat. Looks just like Fred Flintstone's water buffalo hat. And from then on, I was known as a Grand Poobah, and I wore that hat at the yearly meeting and then at the Funny Car Nationals. And it draws some attention. It's pretty cool. And, you got to have a shtick, so to speak, anymore. So that's mine.
Well, I can appreciate a good shtick, as you said. I mean, look at me, and I appreciate the hat, and it's definitely a cool look. And it was cool to see you with all those funny cars there at Keystone Dragway, that autograph session. You're out there. It looked like you were really enjoying yourself. All the funny car drivers enjoyed themselves. So what I just mentioned, break that down for everybody listening and describe it, because that was a good moment for the Funny Car Nationals.
Well, it was really interesting. It was actually Greg Miller that runs the track. It was his idea. He decided to have an hour autograph session, and we kind of tied it in. He wanted to have the cars around so the drivers could be with their cars, and so we were going to tie it in with a little bit of a photography session. So Greg actually situated the cars and kind of as you can see in the picture, the V, and you could see it very nicely up by the stands. And this was actually on the spectator side of the track. And one thing I've always noticed over the years is that some years we don't have a lot. We are on the opposite side of the track, and we don't have a lot of foot traffic. I think there's some hesitance for some of the spectators to walk across the staging lanes into the other side of the track. So this gave us an opportunity to be kind of front and center with the spectators, and it proved to be very successful. As you stated, there was a great crowd. It went on for at least an hour and a half, and then it was time to get back to the pits to get the cars ready. But I know that many of the racers asked a lot of the spectators whether they'd been to the track before, and a lot of them had not. So Greg did a little more advertising as far as TV and radio this year, and it sure seems like it worked. And so the spectator count was very good. Greg was happy with that, and again, all the racers. We actually had a couple racers that were kind of not really excited about the autograph session, but at the end, everybody was very happy. A lot of them gave out tons of handouts, and we had posters, and it was a great reception from the fans. They all seemed very happy.
Yes, anytime you have to shoo people away, which is almost like what happened, you had like, okay, we gotta go. Come on, everybody, go away, go away.
Yep.
You know you've done something good, and that autograph session was great. And man, look, I know I took a moment after going into round one, and I went back to the back of the tower. I peeked through the blinds, and I came back, and I was like, folks, you are one of the some of the smart ones because you understand time management, because there is a line out the gate trying to get in this place. So good crowd, good event for the Funny Car Nationals. And look, you're wearing one of the T-shirts, so can anybody pick them up online, or can they at least get them at the next event?
We actually still have some available. If they want to contact me, I can ship them out to them. We are at Quaker City a week from Saturday for their night of fire, so they will be available. Whatever we have left will be available there. We did a good job selling them. There are some sizes that aren't very plentiful, and for some reason we have a whole lot of larges, and that kind of seems to happen. But so there's either a lot of smaller and bigger people in this world. There's not the middle people. So, oh, but yeah, that's it's a great shirt. Dave Farron, the artist that did the shirt, did a great job on this one, and it's it just is nice commemoration for the 15th anniversary.
All right, Dennis, let's dive into this. Great Lake Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit. What the heck is it?
Well, as some of you may have remembered, a nitro racer called Frank Oglesby. I forget the name of his car, but way back in the day when the Nostalgia Funny Car chat board was kind of lively, as he would say, it's that funny car group with a real long name. But and so it was kind of funny, but as anybody that tries to put something together with a name, I mean, we had the problems when we had our race car trying to figure out what to name the car. So what do you come up with? Well, it was kind of convenient that we are in one of the many Great Lakes states, and that's kind of where we run. So that's where the Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit came from. And I was kind of using the SIFCA, California Independent Funny Car Circuit, as a kind of as a pattern. So that's kind of where that came up, and there are many a times that I kind of wish I'd have picked a shorter name, but like on my checking account and stuff, I just put GLNFCC. So, and but that's where we're at, and again, we have members in just about every one of the Great Lakes states, and I think the last count we had members in approximately 7 different states. And the whole idea of that was to kind of broaden, because when we started in 2008, that was when we had some uh, fuel issues and such back then too, and so wanted to keep it within a 4 to 6 hour drive for anybody, unless there was a specific track that they say, hey, I want to. We ever go there, I want to go. I don't care how far it is. So that's what we did, and everybody appreciates it. A 4, 6, maybe an 8 hour ride isn't so bad. Now that a lot of the guys have motorhomes and such, they can take off Thursday night or Friday night after work and get a few hours behind them and then finish up in the morning.
Well, you definitely have a cool series going on and a lot of great characters and cars within the Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit. And take the time, take the floor, and highlight a few of the top cars. Now, I know you're going to get phone calls. You didn't mention me, Dennis, but take some time and say, hey, the ones with some unique history, the ones that just look that great, the ones that perform great. Take some time and mention some of those cars and those people.
Well, I'm a little disappointed because you didn't get to see two of the members that have been to every Funny Car Nationals and have been original members. Rocky Osick, who has a Solid Rock Mustang, and that particular car actually has a lot of history. It was the ghetto rat back in the 70s in the Chicago area. And it kind of the funny thing is that he ended up with the chassis somehow and had a Pinto body on it, and then he put an altered body on it and was getting back. That's when the nostalgia funny car thing kind of came to light. And his brother-in-law or somebody said, "Hey, I know where this Mustang body is." Turns out it was the original body that was on that chassis, and that's just kind of interesting. And then Mark Horvath, that's been with the group, it was a big family deal, and they had the damn Yankee Vega, and then they got uh, a Cordova body, a Charger body, and that was one of the unique bodies out there. It's kind of like with Sweetman's, and they actually have two bodies. They had the Ford Mustang Frantic Ford out there this weekend, but they have a Citation, which probably 99% of your listeners don't know what the heck a Citation is, and the probably one of the funniest uh, renditions was I think it was 2017. We were for the Funny Car Nationals, and Brett Kepner, being Brett, he was telling everybody how ugly the Citations and the Arrows were as far as a street car goes, but how great a funny car they make, and that's true. But you got to be careful. Can't tell everybody they got an ugly baby. They don't like that. But and we've got a lot. Every car has a name, just like they did back in the 70s. It's we try to keep it reminiscent of the 70s and 80s, and where they had character and they had nicknames and all of that. And we have cars with very expensive paint jobs that look very nice, others that are wraps and things like that. But the important thing is that they look like they did in the 70s. The spectators can associate to that, and that they look like a car, not like these funny cars today where they're just a wedge with a bubble on it. And we all understand, that's aerodynamics, and that's what they had to do. But again, it's we do our best to replicate what they did in the 70s and 80s. And every once in a while we'll have people say, hey, those cars aren't very fast, you're only running 7 seconds 690s. And if you go back into the records in the late 70s and early 80s, a double B funny car was qualifying with a low 7 or maybe a 690. I mean, there was guys like Mandolini and such who were running 70s and 80s, but overall, because I actually found a recording one time of a meet at US 31, US 30, and the Trans Am that we had was there in 1983, and Howard had qualified at that event with a 714 or something, and he was in the middle of the field. So the big thing is that we put on a show, great smoky burnouts, good side by side runs, and that's what the spectators are there to see.
That they are. Look, I remember going to the Southern Nationals and looked forward to seeing John Force and Dean Scusa line up, because they would take it all the way down the track, it seemed, with a good long smoky burnout. And it was cool to see some funny cars do just that at Keystone Raceway there for the Funny Car Nationals, and do some reminiscing and see a funny car burnout, because there's not, in my opinion, many drag racing vehicles that just does a burnout as cool as a funny car. The way the smoke envelops around them and through them, and especially if the windows are out on the side, the way it comes out, it looks so cool, so cool. And one of the coolest looking funny cars out there, finally I got to see it, was Warpath. John Sergio's Warpath. Just it is themed right everywhere. What a cool story he's got behind that deal. So any of you out there watching, there's some photos on Monday Morning Racer, but you need to get to a Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit race and see that Warpath machine. It is beautiful.
That is definitely a beautiful car, and he takes such pride in it. And actually, there's a really funny story about that. It's quite a while ago, probably 10 years ago. They were racing at Capitol out in Maryland, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but the car hooked up, and he smacked the wall and scraped it up pretty good. And that's a that's a Steve Bell design and circus paint job and all of that. It has kind of the same lineage that the old cars would have had. But Drew Sweetman and Danny Sweetman were helping them at that point in time, and when they got in the golf cart to go get him, his girlfriend Patty says, "Now listen, you two. This he hit the wall, and this is going to be a life-changing experience for him." And so it was kind of funny, and he got it painted up the next couple of weeks, and it's been fine ever since. But yeah, it's definitely his baby, and it is a beautiful car. And the neat thing is that that's uh that's a 1985 Somerset, which is kind of when the cars were starting to change into the Batmobile and lose their flavor. But that's still, if you park that next to a 85 Somerset, it looks like it. So that's nice. I mean, we can still have some of the newer cars and still be part of the nostalgia scope.
Yeah, certainly it is. It's a beautiful machine, and I wonder at times because I go cover Southeast Gassers Association racing a lot, and seeing the cars that run with you, and then some of even the cars that operate in and out of Funny Car Chaos. I'm like, y'all spent that on that type of vehicle that is prone to scraping the wall. Like, I don't know, like wrap it for me. I mean, I love paint, but my
Yep,
goodness, or some of these pro mod guys, I'm like, y'all have lost your minds. You spent that
yep.
much money, and you're running nitrous. You're gonna burn it down. You're gonna burn your paint job. I mean,
You're absolutely right. We with the Trans Am, we bumped the front end and had quite a paint job on it, and it cost me $2,500 just to fix the front corner. And afterwards, I said, plain paint job with wrap with graphics of some sort. But
there you go.
yep,
There you go. Well,
absolutely.
Dennis, look, for a man that is owning, promoting, operating a nostalgia funny car deal, you have to have some great stories of why funny cars. Like, what was the first time you saw a funny car, and why did you get hooked on these vehicles, and why have the racing yourself and your own car and those type of things and move to this? Why funny cars? I mean, it could be fuel alters, it could be top fuel, it could be pro mods. Why funny cars?
That's really hard to say because actually, what hooked me in 1977, a high school buddy talked me into going to Dragway 42 for the NHRA Grand Nationals, and he says, "Man, you just can't believe the noise and this and that." And I said, "Oh hell, that's nothing." And so when we parked and walked up to the strip, Gary Beck had just did a burnout, and I was hooked. And for some reason, I kind of gyrated towards the funny cars. There's just something about them when you get hooked with those, with the body up and so forth. There's just a passion. There's just a connection of some sort. The mystique, the allure. Again, I think a lot of it had to do with the back in the days when when they had the names. The Army, the of course, Jungle Jim, and they all had the unique personalities. And I read a story one time in Drag Illustrated. It was a biography or whatever of Bruton Smith, and he said if he owned an NHRA that he would bring back the rivalries and the names and so forth. And of course, that's kind of hard to do with the corporate dollar, but that is what made it so much intriguing and so forth. So, I actually in '78 we actually had an opportunity to buy an old funny car. Had it for a year or so, never did anything with it. It was an old Cuda, and it was interesting because as they say, the big circle comes around, but the guy that actually built the car was Jack Finnegar, and some people out there will right away say, "Hey, I know Jack." Well, Jack helped out Ken Vini. He built Ken Vini's cars, and then he moved out west and he crewed on, I think, Billy Meyer's car in the '80s and things like that. So it's really interesting how a lot of these circles are kind of small, but so I had that car briefly, and then the did the family thing and all of that, and then my youngest son and I we got into the junior. He wasn't really into it, and so we got rid of that, and I had a motorhome and a trailer, and said, "Hey, let's do something," and started looking around, and at the time wasn't really looking for a specific nostalgia car, but wanted to get a funny car, and looked around, and being a little broad-shouldered guy, it's kind of hard to find these chassis to fit. And so I ended up finding this old Monza, and it had a wider cage, and we got that, and actually ran that for 2 years with a 392 Hemi in it, and then came across the '78 Trans Am and '79 Trans Am, and first year we had a 417 in it, and then we had a and we put a 426 in it that actually Chris Gerber that drove the car, he had bought an old dragster, and that was a top alcohol, well, an alcohol dragster motor in there. That was a great running car, great happy motor, and again, as we did that, we met people, and we kind of met the Horvaths and met other people that had funny cars, and they would get events, we would get events, and we'd start dragging the stuff up and down the highway for nothing, next to nothing. And then 2008, we decided to form the group. And at the time, I believe we had about 8 or 9 people, and it's grown to right around 15, 16 people at a time. And we try to get as many, we're typically around 10 to 15 events a year. This year wasn't a great year, but um, we get out as many tracks as we can, and either be part of a nostalgia event or part of a night of fire event. And it's always great to see the spectators and reminisce with them and hear the stories that they may have of themselves or grandpa and things like that. That's when we had the Mons and they had the 392 in it. That was kind of really intriguing because there was a lot of old folks who would come up and say, "Hey, we had an old 392," and it was just at the end of the day, it just makes you feel good that you've made somebody's day a little better or reminisced and so forth.
Your outfit, the Great Lake Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit, is in its 15th anniversary year. Congratulations. It's hard for any group to make it beyond year one, much less have 10 and now 15. But what do you envision the future of this series to be? Is it good where it is right now? Are there greater aspirations? Is it maintaining? Is it just fighting against the challenges that is the modern day world and what motorsports is in?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. And a lot of people, uh, Peak Products is one of our sponsors, our main sponsors, and Brian Bolander that is with Old World Industry. Him and he'll call me every so often and ask me that question. Where's the future? What's going on? It is not obviously the 70s and 80s anymore, and people just don't flock to the drag strip like they used to. One of the biggest problems is there is such a draw for the entertainment dollar out there that they just can't do that anymore. And the fact that, excuse me, that kids just aren't gearheads like we were, and I don't know if it's because of the way the cars are today or what, but over the last several years, we have noticed that we are seeing um, we're seeing some younger people coming back to the track. Not necessarily young, but 30s, 40s, and things like that. It's not the old, all the old gray hairs like some people say. As one of the big things that has been an argument of sorts is calling them nostalgia funny cars because they say, well, somebody thinks right away it's a bunch of old folks or a bunch of show cars and things like that. But you got to define them somehow. But yes, it's I, I said from the beginning that we were on a wave. I don't know how long this wave is going to hold out. We're just surfing it out as long as we can. It definitely lasted a lot longer than anticipated, and honestly, I don't see that the nostalgia, the classic movement, is really going anywhere yet. I mean, we've been hammered hard the last 2 years. Everybody has, and it's not just drag racing; it's the world, and we all know that. And then with the gas prices the way they are, people can't travel like they did, so that's an issue. But I, you know, I mean, I've been at it 15 years, and there are days that are more challenging than others. But it's really neat to show up at a race and have the 6, 8, 10 cars or the big ones, and these guys are out. We kind of given them an opportunity to go out there and have fun, perform a little bit in front of a crowd, and be the show instead of watching the show for a chance, and go home without losing a lot of money in your pockets. I mean, we get a little money for the show, and that's a good thing. And then they have such all of them have great, great pride in their cars and what they do.
So you mentioned Peak. I know S&W Race Cars is also involved from looking at the bio book, but Good Vibrations Motorsports. It hit me, being in the tower, being at your event. Wow, they support March Meet. They support the independent group there in Southern California that you mentioned. They're supporting Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit. They seem to have a passion for this grassroots group that is going out there and putting on those type of shows in which you do. How important to the grand scheme of it is Good Vibrations Motorsports in your world, the drag racing world?
Well, I would say as far as basically, I would say more nostalgia type racing and so forth because that's kind of where their passion is. But for drag racing in general is very important. Jim and James Mayer have built a wonderful company. They are very supportive. Uh, we they have actually been on board with us from the beginning. They kind of came on board with the Reaction Time Award, and since then we've formed a great friendship. And they just play such a strong part. As you said, that they support the March Meet. They actually support some various nostalgia groups, various tractor pulling groups, mud running groups, uh, a lot. And it is great to help support a group like that that is down to earth and very supportive. And I know that most, if not all, of our guys will call out there, and they don't always get a chance to talk to Jim or James, but they know that their parts are going to come to them right, and that if they have a question, that's who they can call. And it's really an interesting story. And Jim, if you're listening, if I get it half wrong, I'm sorry. But Jim actually was born and raised in western or eastern Ohio, not far from Pittsburgh and Quaker City track. And in '78, we had the big blizzard, and he had enough of that and moved out to California, and eventually, eventually got married and so forth. And apparently, he had joined the CIFCA, the California Independent Funny Car Circuit, and started going to the races. And these guys needed a fuel jug or a funnel or this or that. So he started bringing parts in his trailer, and so that's kind of how Good Vibration Motorsports was born, just similar to a lot of other places. And so and he has built up great relationship with all of the associations. I know that he was a big supporter for IHRA the last several years. They were in really had the nitro jams and so forth. But I did go out to the hot rod reunion one year. That was the first year I'd went out there. It was about 2016, and he had so many customers that were from Australia, from England, or wherever, and they would come out to that race to see him, buy parts, have them shipped over, and just kind of hang out. And that was pretty neat to see how strong that the company is and how his relationship. But yeah, he is quite a you talk to him, he's quite a reserved fella at times. I understand, though, in his day, they had some really spectacular banquets and so forth, him and Pete. But it's nice to have a guy like that on board, and I've called him over the years several times when I might have an issue or an idea about the group. I say, hey, what'd you do with Sifka? How would you handle this? And things like that. So I think, as I had said about Frank Oglesby earlier, that's kind of the neat thing that I think is great with the funny cars is there is a connection there, and being able to relate to the people that are involved or the people that were involved. It's pretty. It's I think it's really a great thing.
So, Dennis, the year is not done for the Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit. Just had, I would take, it's what I gathered, kind of the principal race in the Funny Car Nationals, but several more events coming up. So give us the rundown of the schedule and where can people go and follow your series?
Well, we actually, like I said, next weekend we are at Quaker City in Salem, Ohio. We have 4 cars there, and it's part of a night of fire. It's going to be spectacular. We were part of it last year, and I would say the place was pretty much packed. If they didn't have a full house, I don't know where they'd put them. But then we actually we've kind of connected ourselves. Some of the racers that run with us have had great relationships with tracks and have kind of helped promote some races with those tracks. So we have a couple of those that are called associated events, and actually I think it's the 7th of August. Island Raceway out in New Jersey has a big funny car throwdown, and there is going to be approximately 12 funny cars and nitro and alcohol and injected funny cars there. And then the end of August, we are at Edgewater in Cincinnati with a 6-car show. And then we're kind of slowing down for the year. And at the end of September, we are at Keystone Raceway Park again for their nostalgia event, which is spectacular. And as you can remember looking out the tower and that hill across the track, that thing will be totally full of show cars on that day, and it is just amazing. But so that's actually a 2-day deal, Saturday Sunday deal, and we make 2 passes on Saturday, 1 run on Sunday, and then that's gonna be kind of it for the year. We had some issues getting more events. I think some of these tracks are still just kind of hesitant to book things in and not have a crowd show up. Greg was skeptical about the crowd. Norm that runs Quaker City, he's skeptical about the crowd next week, which you just you understand that, but I think some things are turning around. But again, we do have a website. It hasn't been up to date very well lately, but it is www.glnfcc.com. We do have a Facebook page that gets a little bit more love, and a lot of the guys will update their stuff on there if they can. We're out there. I know there's a lot of YouTube videos for some of the guys and events, and Motor Mania TV actually videoed the first and second Funny Car Nationals that was at Keystone, and those you can actually get to those on YouTube. There's a lot of places out there, and again, stay on Facebook and maybe check the website once in a while. But would love to have more people out there, and it's always fun talking to the spectators and seeing the kids sit in the car, get pictures of the car. Uh, Funny story I had was many, many years ago. I think we were at Quaker City, and this kid come up with his mom, and he obviously had been watching NHRA and stuff. He was very knowledgeable, talked about John Force and some of those guys, and knew all about a funny car. And I asked him, well, here, what? He was probably 6 or 7. I said, why don't you sit in it? He said, oh no. It was like I just said something bad to him, but he could tell me all about it, but he sure didn't want to sit in it. But that's great, when you see them smile and all of that. If you were around the autograph session, you saw a lot of that, and that's great. And that again, seeing people happy, seeing them smile is a lot of what we do and makes us do it again.
Well, Dennis, you got a great series, a lot of cool cars out there, and even cooler people that have those cars. And looking forward to being back at whichever one I can catch next. Look, thank you to you and Greg Miller. I'm going to have Greg later on the show at some point. Definitely got to talk to him and his story. But thank y'all for allowing me and to check another thing off the list I had been wanting to announce, and got my feet wet, and hopefully didn't turn anybody away from the experience while being on the mic. And I certainly enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. So thank you for that.
Well, I didn't realize that was your first event, because you did a great job. And as you know, and everybody knows, the announcing it can make or break an event, and that's very important. But you did a great job, and glad to have you out there, and glad to be on your show, and have an opportunity to spread the funny car love.
Dennis, look, thank you, man, for coming on the show, and I hope all the best for the Great Lake Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit for the remainder of 2022 and on into the future. Have a good night, sir.
Thank you. You too.
All right, Darren, look, hit a break. Bring something up. Power Built Tools, and we'll come right back, and we'll talk with each and every one of you. Dive into the comments section. I'll do about 10 minutes of Q&A if we have enough questions, and it's there for the liking and putting the comments in. We'll do that along with Darren. Hit it, man. Find it. You got it?
Power Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase.
Man, Darren, I tell you, so blessed to be able to work with such cool racing bodies. Look, I love the NHRA. Do not get me wrong. But the NHRA isn't always the coolest thing out there, honestly. They're professionals, and I understand they're the fastest and the quickest, but sometimes that's not the only cool factor you need. And to go to Funny Car Chaos, to go to Great Lakes Nostalgia Funny Car Circuit, to go to Southeast Gasser Association, man, It's pretty doggone cool.
Nah, and when you go to like these independent type of series, and like for me, I go to the Heritage series a lot. I mean, it's just a lot more laid back. The drivers are more accessible. It just seems like it's more of a community based, and so I love it. You can get to the drivers easily. So I totally understand, man. Totally understand.
Yeah, I want to get to the one out in your neck of the woods that I still haven't got the acronym and the name in my mind where it's concrete and I can just rattle it off. But like the Southern Independent Funny Car Association or whatever it is.
Yeah, California Independent Funny Cars. So yeah, SIFCA.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
there we go. Yes,
Yeah, I'm just saying they come out to the March meeting, the California Hot Rod Reunion every year, and what's cool is like they do these long smoky burnouts. It's super cool. They be whacking the throttle, doing like dry hops. It's really cool.
Yes,
really cool.
Dry hops, man. And that's one thing. If we could just bring dry hops back, even in the big show. I mean, if I don't know, if I had the money, just like let's cool that clutch enough where I can get at least 2 dry hops in and it not mess everything up. Oh, because look, the crowd went nuts when J.R. Todd had to whack it to get it to move. I understand he didn't mean necessarily to do it. He just had to do what he needed to in the moment. But man, the crowd was like, what?
It was funny. You called me a rookie, right? So I'm recording. Well, tell me why, because I'm trying to save battery. So after the burnout, I turned the camera off and I missed the freaking throttle. I missed the whack.
Oh, man, you missed it.
But Daryl Gwynn used to say, he said he loved the dry hop because he knew how good the track was going to be when he did that. And he said it got him pumped up. He's like, oh, I'm ready to hit this thing now. So Daryl Gwynn used to love doing dry hops, like for sure.
Yeah, man, they were a cool part of our sport for sure. Hey, we got any comments lined up? Anybody asking us some questions? Maybe we can take about 10 minutes and just do the Q&A.
None currently right now. I'm sure they'll be coming in just in just a second. But I want to put these comments up real quick because I was reading these throughout the show.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find them real quick. It's from Paul Boone. He says right here. He says, from firsthand witness, MMR is a go-getter. I see you everywhere and at event actually amazing to move to where you need to be. Stampede of speed, especially. So I thought that was a great comment right there from Paul Boone.
I appreciate that, Paul. Look, I try to, as I said earlier in the show, I have just got to a point in my life where I'm not telling myself no. Now, I need to start telling myself no with ice cream and plates of food and get back on keto. I need to start telling myself no in that respect. I do. But as far as going somewhere and experiencing a drag racing event or a motorsport event or something in which that I am trying to ply in this craft now, no, I'm going to take the opportunity. I'm going to go get that job, and I'm going to do that job to the best of my ability. Just like the announcing thing. I've never done it before. Mm-hmm. Last time I had announced anything was my high school powder puff game. Mm-hmm. That was the last time. I mean, I'm 33 now. High school is past me. It's well past me. Okay. But just because I don't have experience doesn't mean I didn't think I was capable to some degree. Did I learn some things within it that I'm like, okay, I need to work on this. I want to work on that. Yes. But you've got to have your first time, no matter who you are or what you're in. You got to go get it done. When I was a welder, I didn't say no to a weld test to a potential better job. I'd go do it. I failed weld tests, man. I failed far more weld tests than I ever did pass because weld testing is very strange. They never tell you how to prepare for it. You just show up and they're like, weld this. And sometimes you're like, oh, that's something I've never encountered before. But you learn through it. And then you can go back the next time and you can possibly pass, or you can take that experience with you and apply it to something else. Just stop saying no, except the drugs.
Brent Browning says, I've watched you since the very first one you did. Love it, man. Congrats. So that's a great
I appreciate that, Mr. Browning. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I intend to continue to do Between the Slicks. And I hope my ultimate goal with Between the Slicks, whether it stays with this name or there's a spinoff, and it's given another name like Drag Racing Confidential or something like that, is I want to do what Joe Rogan does. I want to have like 3 hours with the driver in studio. If they want to have a drink, they can drink. If they want to smoke something, they can smoke something. I mean, I don't really care, but I mean, to do that and be on camera and it be that situation, I don't care. But have that long form. Let's really get down into it and ask them off the wall questions like, so, John, you saw Elvis, but have you seen an alien? Do you believe in aliens? All those type of things. I want to ask those questions. They're human beings, and all we hear from them is race, race, race. And that's cool. But, yeah, do you believe in aliens? I want to know that.
Well, no, I don't believe in it. Well, No, I don't believe in aliens, but just going back off the podcast thing, you know, I've thought about that for the longest because when I'm at work, that's all I do is listen to long form podcasts. And when you get that in studio sit down, it opens up the guests just so much more, and they're prone to telling those stories that you want to hear. So I definitely agree with that. I've been thinking about that myself. So I mean, I would definitely say go after it, man, because that's what people want to hear is those stories you don't get to hear every day.
Right. I mean, look at the popularity of what Dale Jr. is doing. And I think we need more representation like that for the drag racing world. And look, you know, my show, the guests are typically on 30, 40 minutes, maybe 50 minutes tops. If you look overall of the life of the show, it's really not enough time to dig down deep. Yes, I ask some regular core questions that I think are important, but I want to dig deeper and get to some of those off-wall questions, get to some of those serious questions. Let them, if they're retired, really say, I hated that dude. I never want to see that dude again in my life. He is terrible for drag racing. Could you imagine Whit Bazemore in a long-form podcast sitting down and just letting loose? Could you imagine, you know, the characters that have gone on, Cruz Petragon on a long form podcast? Well, he, even in short form, he says enough. Can you imagine long form? And there's so many other people within the sport that they need that time at the table. And that's why I even have this show, because Mr. Browning, you know, as well as I do, watching the show from the beginning, it's not just the racers here. It's not just the promoters. We've had like the Sarah Slaughters. We've had the Darren Williams Juniors. We've had these people that are behind the scenes in this sport. We've even had fans on, like John Charbonneau, the amateur photographer that has been to over hundreds of national events. There are stories everywhere in this sport, and I want to get them.
For sure. I'm looking for a comment right now. They were saying how, I'm just trying to find it. They said Big Daddy should probably be the guest for the number 100 show. What you think about that? Big Daddy.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Maybe, you know, maybe I'll ask him. I'll talk to whoever his, the PR publicist, I can't, oh great, I can't say that word. Publicist, never mind, PR, public relations individual. I can say that easier. Public relations individual, whoever that is, I'll have to talk to them. I was also thinking about reaching out to Daryl Gwynn for the 100th. Daryl does know who I am. I've wanted him on the show. Maybe I can work that out. I hope here in the near future we'll also have Glenn Cromwell. I would like to have the president of the NHRA on this show, not just Competition Plus Power Hour. So there is no telling who the 100th might be. I'm going to try to find somebody. But let me say this. Even if I don't get somebody, whoever that body is, they are, in fact, somebody. And that's the purpose of Between the Slicks.
For sure, for sure. We got some more comments coming in real quick. Competition Plus TV says, Dale Worsham was the best at the dry hop with the Blue Max Tribute Mustang. There you go.
Well, sadly, I have never been able to see that and enjoy that. I will say, though, Ronnie Young is doing a great job with the Blue Max that he's got. I actually did drive it back in the day. Beautiful car. It's always photogenic. I don't care what the light looks like. I don't care. There could be a tornado about to come down. You could put it out on the track. It'd be the most photogenic looking funny car in the world. It is such a beautiful machine. He does a great job driving it as well.
For sure. What we need to see is, I need to see this one day. One day I need to see the Northwest Hitter, Bobby Cottrell, Bucky Austin, that whole Northwest Hitter team versus Ronnie Young in that Blue Max car. I have to see that side by side one day. Have to. Hey, if certain people can get over a whole 8th Mile deal, you can see it at Funny Car Chaos at the Funny Car Classic at the Texas Motorplex. But there's a whole group out there that needs to get over a certain distant thing. Don't start throwing shots now. Don't start throwing shots.
They do.
Because we go quarter mile here on the West Coast. Okay, don't we start throwing shots at us. All right. We are.
And it's like the only thing y'all got, and you're losing drag strips.
Shots fired here on Between the Slicks. Wow. Okay.
You've admitted it yourself. I mean, no, there is such a great funny car scene out there, but it's like that's all it is. I mean, I never hear of a big money, like as far as big money bracket races, Las Vegas. It's like they don't want to go any further. And
no, I didn't mean to cut you off. You asked me, was bracket racing a big thing here on the West Coast? While it's not as huge as, in your part of the area, I will mention one track that does do it pretty big, and that's Firebird Raceway in Boise, Idaho. They have a great bracket program at that racetrack.
That's not California.
But it's still technically West Coast, though.
We're talking about Southern California.
Okay.
Southern California at this point. I said California. Yes, Boise does a great job. That's a track that's on my list. It looks like it is kind of like Bandimere, just in another picturesque setting, and it's carved out a little bit. And you never know, that might be a place that the NHRA could go with a national meet. I mean, they have a pretty big race there, and they also have regionals. That could be in the future. I think that would be cool to go in that market.
I don't think they have a return road though. I think that's the only thing. I think they put the tow vehicles down the racetrack. I've never been to Boise, but from what I've seen, they do the tow cars down the racetrack after the run. So I don't think they have an actual return road.
Well, again, you never know. A lot of these tracks are making more improvements than what people realize. And in upcoming years, that NHRA Camping World schedule is going to look vastly different than I think it has in decades. And I'm excited about that. Oh, by the way, I want to start this now. If you are listening to this show and you are anywhere near Route 66 and they have that upcoming regional meet and you're not there, shame on you. Shame on you. If you're one of those people who's like, I want Route 66 back, but yet you won't go support a regional event. They're having a regional this year, and I'm guaranteeing you it is a litmus test. It is a barometer. It is a measuring stick of, hey, are we going to have a national event back here? Get to the track.
We have to get that racetrack back. One, because it is a beautiful facility. I've never been, but just seeing, how the tower looks with the grandstands wrapped around like stadium style, like that is a beautiful racetrack. We got to get that racetrack back, like for sure.
Yes.
We got to get that back on schedule.
And it is up to the drag racing fan in that area to get it back. So stop your whining and stop your keyboard typing and shuffle your little feet and open your wallet and go support that race. And if you don't, I don't want to hear from you. Don't come on the show no more. Don't.
I want to ask the audience one quick question. This is kind of like some NHRA trivia real quick. If you guys are still tuning in, I want to ask you guys a quick question. Who was the last guy in NHRA history to sweep the Western Swing and what year? I want to know the last guy to sweep the Western Swing and what year? Let me know down in the comments.
Now, I cannot tell you what year, other than it's a 2000 something, but I believe it was Antron, wasn't it?
You weren't supposed to say it right now. What the comments?
You could have waited. You could have played like, well, just wait. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Antron Brown, 2009. Yes, you're right.
2009. Well, I'll tell you what. He needs one of those races, not a sweep right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just a quick little stat too. So that was actually swept in back-to-back years. Because remember, Schumacher swept it the year before in 2008 as well. So we've had times where guys have swept the swing back-to-back years. Larry Dixon 2003, Greg Anderson 2004. So it has been done back-to-back years and has been done pretty often. So let's see if it's been 13 years now. So let's see if Mike can sweep the swing here in 2022.
Hey, everybody in the comments section, do you think Robert Height can do it? Remember, he made that statement after the Norwalk win, had him on the show last week and talked a little bit about it. I feel like Robert tried to backpedal just a little bit in the interview last week, but can Robert do it? Can he establish himself that much further as Mr. Funny Car of 2022?
You got to keep it to yourself. Once you say it out loud, it's like, you got to keep it to yourself. But I hope he does it, though. That's one thing I would like to see Robert cross off his list, sweeping the Western Swing.
That'd be cool. Well, Darren, look, man, thank you for helping out. Definitely want to send you some money over PayPal. Appreciate all you've done, and it helps me where I can just stand here and talk and be out in the open. And there's a party going on. I want to get to it and enjoy it. And everybody else, we're going to shut the party that is Between the Slicks down. Thank you all. God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal.
Can I say one quick thing before we go?
Sure.
Everybody tuning in, Sunday night, if you watch the Denver race, the Mile High Nationals, come over to my channel at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific for a recap show. We're just, a bunch of dudes just sit down and just recap the show for fun. So come in, check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Leave your comments. Tell us what you thought about the race. It'll be a lot of fun. So tune in. American Hot Rod Entertainment on YouTube. It'll be a lot of fun.
He does a great job along with Dave W. and Mr. Bland and whoever else is on that show. Even me occasionally, I get the invitation. It's kind of nice.
We got to get you back on for Sonoma.
Hey, whenever, man. I that's another track I want to get to. I gotta get there. Man, I gotta get there.
I will be there. I will be in
Sonoma. I'm glad you're gonna be there. That's cool. That is cool. Out. Peace.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Good night.